It's a GTN show, and it is a big one. We are celebrating the first 70.3 World Championships in 2 years.
It has been a big weekend of racing. We've also got some controversy at the Super League in Jersey. We've got nail-biting finishes at the WTCS in Hamburg, and plenty more Ironman results for you too.
Yeah, we've also got triathletes racing gravel. We've got a 10K runner who accidentally won a half marathon. And we've also got an incredible 12-day swim dodging icebergs.
We're going to kick off with some of the things we've noticed on social media this past weekend, starting with this. Alistair Brownlee, after his epic 570 Badlands gravel adventure, has done another gravel race. This time the 78 kilometer King's Cup British gravel champs. He said it was unofficial British gravel
well, he's
champs.
wearing a British Championship jersey though, so he's quite proud of that one. But I think maybe he's alluring to the fact that it came down to a sprint finish, which you maybe wouldn't expect in a gravel race. So he was second overall, but was the first Brit. So.
Yeah, the Kiwi beat him, Ryan Christensen. And on the women's side, also a triathlete winning that. Ruth Astle won the women's by a solid 6 minutes ahead of another triathlete, India Lee.
Yeah.
So, triathletes giving it a good go at the gravel race.
And I think we should give a mention because our friends over at GCN, Manon Lloyd, did her very first gravel race as well.
Oh, really?
She was beaten by triathletes. Sorry, Manon.
Ooh.
Anyway, should we move on quickly before you know she gets too upset with that one? Still an impressive performance. We had quite a funny story that we've noticed from the local Bristol half marathon. There was a runner who set off or entered the 10K, and he ended up winning the half marathon without realising. I mean, there's a bit more to the story, but...
That's right. Omar Ahmed started the 10K race, entered the 10K race and took off. And about 5Ks in, the races split and he went the wrong way. After a little while, he spoke to one of the other runners and said, "Are we running the 10K?" And he said, no, this is the half. So he just slowed down a little bit and carried on to the finish. We ran 63 minutes and won a half marathon.
I mean, imagine running 63 minutes without planning to. Even your nutrition, everything, your training. I mean, that is some talented runner that I feel the coach must be like, oh my God, excited what he could potentially do.
Yeah,
we'll keep an eye out.
Very impressive. You'll see him in a few more half marathons soon, I think.
As long as you don't make the mistake in a half marathon and then, go the wrong way for the marathon, because that could be painful.
Yeah, no, I know what a marathon feels like when you're not ready for it.
Yeah, exactly. Some not such good news here in the world of cycling. We've just seen a Instagram post from Jack Schofield, who was involved in a bike crash. Thankfully, he is okay before you kind of gasp at these photos, but a pretty dramatic, hideous accident on a roundabout, dare I say.
Hectic. I mean, that was pretty scary. And cars and cyclists, the cars are always going to win. It's very scary when you see a motorist not paying attention. We're glad he's okay and could walk away from that one. But just stay safe out there. Exactly, very scary.
Well, our final piece of Reacts news comes from the 70.3 World Champs in Utah. And it was Lauren Parker who caught my eye. You might recognise her name. She won the silver at the Paralympics in the wheelchair category. Now, she was leading into this event. She actually suffered burns on her feet and was hospitalised before the World Champs, but managed to get discharged in time. And then, thanks to a team of nurses and a doctor, she managed to compete and complete and had to actually have her dressings checked and redone during the race. So it was big thanks back to Marcy Neal and Sydney Slack, as well as Dr. Carl Van Gils, who helped her through it. You did the dressings, and then they're there at the finish to present her with a medal. And I just thought it's a really incredible story and just shows what a tough athlete Lauren is. We've got one further piece we spotted that's pretty mean. I know you've spotted this one, James, of Hayden Wilde having some issues getting home.
Yeah, Hayden Wilde, Olympic medalist, he's been racing the Super League and he's trying to get back to New Zealand now that his season is coming to a close. But you can't just go into New Zealand. Basically, you have to book a hotel quarantine before you can go in. And you don't just book it, you have to go into kind of a lottery for it. So he put on his Instagram, "This has to be the most intense thing I've done all year. Let's hope I'm in the lucky 3,000 people." That's because they basically have 3,000 rooms that they are going to allocate for September, October, November or December, and you get put your name in the queue, and then randomly you're chosen your position in the queue. So he's waiting there 59 minutes and 13 seconds, holds the fate of me getting home this year. And then his next post is, gutted is an understatement. He is number 5,718 in the queue, and only 3,000 are getting rooms. So amazing. Thanks, New Zealand. Might see you next year. That's pretty brutal. The poor guy can't go home. I'm not sure where he's going to spend Christmas, but it doesn't look like it'll be New Zealand.
Absolutely brutal. Gutting. Right, on to Tri News, and yes, we are going back to Kona. Well, back to the discussion around it, which I think, you and Mark were ahead of the times when you were suggesting that maybe the Ironman World Championships might have to move away from Kona, and surprise, surprise, those rumours have started. I don't think they came from you guys initially.
No.
Maybe people were listening,
yeah,
who knows,
exactly.
But they are now a little more official, as Andrew Messick has said. We are looking at other options, I think his words. He hasn't given much away.
Every option, and that includes potentially taking the race out of Kona. So
he's put the seed, hasn't he? He's planted it.
He's planted the seed, gotten everyone talking about it as we were before we even said that. To be honest, I can't see the race happening in February in Kona, not only because COVID hasn't magically gone away in Hawaii just yet, but also just logistically having a race of that size in Kona in February is almost impossible. It's the middle of the high season.
Yeah.
Everything is booked up. Kona normally happens in October. It's the low season, and basically the further away from the race venue you go, the more accommodation becomes available. In the high season, that's simply not the case.
Yeah.
People are there for the beaches and Hawaii. They're not there for the race, and there's just nowhere to go. But on top of that, COVID is not going away, and they are now suggesting that it could happen somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically saying it's not happening there, aren't they? But they're just not yet saying it, which is kind of funny. But I heard one rumour that it, could be in St. George, but that can't be until April and that's the whole problem with it being in America, because nowhere's going to be warm enough. And then as you start getting later, well, you've got the next one in October. So you kind of can't have two world championships within a few months of each other. But some people have dared to say it could go outside of America. I mean, imagine that.
Imagine that. Well, that is one of the... Dan Enfield wrote a good opinion piece on Slow Twitch, and one of his things was it does actually internationalize the world champs, which is not a bad thing. Having it somewhere outside of America for once might be a great idea. But we're not really sure where it's going to be or when it's going to be. At this point, they're still hoping for February. Obviously, all the pros are training for February. But you can't really have it in North America in February. Yeah. So where are you going to have it?
So hard to get your head around as an athlete, because you kind of don't really know what even events to enter and what you're training for, do you? But, well, hopefully by next week it'll no longer be rumours and we'll know. But anyway, we'll obviously keep you posted. Well, talking of races that are potentially being cancelled, there is sadly one that's definitely being cancelled, and that is Bermuda WTCS. And not only the Saudis of obviously not having a race in Bermuda, it coincides, doesn't it, with the Flora Duffy Day that we talked about last week.
Yeah, very unfortunate there. They've got COVID numbers spiking, and they've just said that their hospitals are filling up and they absolutely cannot hold an event like this there. So it has been cancelled just 3 weeks out from the race. The race was supposed to be on the 16th and 17th of October, and Flora Duffy Day was supposed to be on the 18th of October. I think they're still going to have Flora Duffy Day.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, she definitely deserves that.
Absolutely, but no one's going to be there to take the day off, unfortunately. Very frustrating. The next WTCS event will happen, we hope, in Abu Dhabi. We're not sure yet, though.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
In other news, Josh Quigley has attempted the world record for the longest distance travelled on the bike in 1 week. We believe it's going to be a world record. It hasn't yet been ratified by the Guinness World Records, but it's pretty impressive because he clocked up 3,508 kilometers or 2,179 miles in 1 week, an average of 320 miles per day for a week, and at the end of it he did a 637-mile stretch without sleep to get to the finish line.
And he said that when he finished he was so confused he didn't know what challenge he was doing. And I mean, that kind of puts in context the guy who was running a half marathon and didn't know that he was running a 10k or whatever it was. I think this kind of rate of confusion is going to be at a slightly higher level, and he is someone who has most certainly kind of had some adversity in the last couple of years, you could say. He tried this attempt in April, but there were a few kind of issues before that, weren't there?
Yeah, in December 2019 he was trying to ride around the world, and he was taken out by a car in Texas and suffered life-threatening injuries. He then came back from that and suffered another crash in February in Dubai, where he had suffered spinal injuries, crashing down a hill. He then came back from that and, like Heather said, made an attempt at this in April, but had to pull out after 4 days with a knee injury. And now he's tried again, and it looks like he's got the world record eventually.
I mean, that is tenacity, isn't it? I mean, massive hats off.
It is crazy, mate.
Incredible. Talking of absolutely incredible athletes and superhuman people who can just put themselves through things that us mere mortals can only sort of even imagine. Pugh is an environmental advocate and someone who's very passionate about the oceans, and as a result of sort of his work behind that, he's done a lot of cold water swimming. And I say cold water, I mean extreme ice water swimming.
I cannot wrap my head around this.
No, neither of us can. We were talking about it a moment ago. But anyway, he has done what he's called #ClimateSwim, 12 days to cover 7.8 kilometres. It's between 0 and 3 degrees. So a huge amount of preparation was needed beforehand, but also a lot of preparation even on the day of the swim or of the two swims. So you'd have to get into the water at least 30 seconds before he was allowed to swim. And this apparently made his body more able to complete that set distance that day. And that's because once his breathing was under control, apparently a 0.5 to 2 degree drop in core body temperature can decrease your maximum oxygen consumption by up to 30%. So it could cause your body to start going anaerobically, even though you're at an aerobic pace. So yeah, there's so much science behind it.
There's a lot of science. The whole thing was basically a science experiment. He had a bunch of scientists telling him what to do. His pattern for the whole swim was to swim once in the morning, then spend the rest of the day trying to warm up his body so that he could swim again, and then spend the rest of the night trying to warm up his body so that he could swim again for 12 days consecutively. And to monitor this, what he did every day was swallow a little pill. And that pill went into his intestines, obviously, then broadcast his core temperature to the scientists. And once he was done with it, it passed through his body. It was not reusable. He didn't catch it. He just swallowed a new pill every day to keep the monitor of his core temperature. And yeah, the scientists were just monitoring everything about him and how his body responded to this crazy challenge. Yeah,
but they were also talking about those small changes in body core temperature can have such a huge effect on the body. And they were also, Lewis is talking about how those small changes, say the 1.5 degree change in our ocean and what the difference that can make to our climate. That's kind of the main point of what he's doing. But there's something else that really caught my eye. And maybe because I struggle in cold water, and I know you do, James, as well, but apparently each millimetre of subcutaneous fat that your body can gain or store can make the water temperature, or is the equivalent of the water temperature being up to 1.5 degrees warmer. So if I want to swim in 8 degree water this winter, I'm just thinking of how much ice cream I need to eat to add those few
how many millimeters of fat you need to put on.
To compensate so that I can just go swimming in the winter perfectly happily.
There's two options here. You can buy a thicker wetsuit or not swim in winter. Anyway, Lewis Gordon-Pugh, he said his training focused on getting strong, fit and efficient as possible in the water, and adding as much strategic padding as he could too.
I like that wording.
Yeah, strategic padding, that's what Heather's going to work on for winter maybe.
Well, we're covering all the sports in Tri News this week, and our final one is running. And England Athletics have set up an initiative that's happening this week called Run and Talk, and it's all about raising awareness for mental health and just getting people out, especially after COVID, when everyone's been a little less sociable, haven't they?
Yeah, it's for working on your mental health. The hashtag Run and Talk, you can tag it on social media, and they're encouraging people to literally go out and run, and while you're running, talk. Talk about your mental health, talk about the things you're struggling with, because running and talking is therapeutic for everyone. So they're encouraging everyone to do it. Check out the hashtag or share your own hashtag Run and Talk.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I basically do. If I'm not talking, I'm probably not running.
Yeah, Heather doesn't need a specific week to run and talk. She just runs and
run
talk.
And talk, yeah.
Now it's time for What the Tech.
Yeah, I think Mark's going to be proud, isn't he, that we're still using the name, but he's not going to be proud.
What do you think of his new name?
Well, I like it. I told him. Okay. Yeah, I told these guys last week, but I don't think Mark's going to be very impressed with our lack of tech findings. But we have found something rather cool, but just the one feature this week.
Check this out. New lube from Muc-Off called Ludicrous AF, and they promise that it is the best lube in the world.
I mean, that is some claim, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the claim is that it is ultra low coefficient, it's great in wet, damp and dry, dusty conditions. It outperforms all their competitors as far as friction goes, it's already been used in the Pro Peloton in 2020 and 2021. They spent 3 years developing this in secret.
Yeah.
And now it's available to you.
Yeah. And apparently it wasn't just cyclists that helped develop it. The BMC Pro team were also involved in the development of this. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's really, really fast apparently. It's Ludicrous AF, which stands for Ludicrous Anti-Friction.
And fast?
Ludicrous and fast?
Yeah, can you think of any other?
I can't imagine what else AF would stand for.
No
if you have an
idea.
idea, leave it in the comment section down below.
Yeah, help us out. On to race news, and this isn't any normal race news. This is the 70.3 World Championships, which we've been dying to talk about. Now, it had been hyped as obviously a huge event, but also as what's going to be a very hot event. The average temperatures being around 38 degrees, and if you follow any of the athletes who've been out there training, it looked like it was kind of true to form. However, race day actually dealt some hailstones and temperatures as low as 18 degrees. So it really did kind of open things up, and it was some exciting racing as we would have expected.
It was, yes. On the women's side, though, there was only one woman in it, really. Lucy Charles, fastest swim, fastest bike, fastest run, and took the win by 8 minutes. Massive victory there. How the race panned out, Lucy Charles got out the swim in front, of course, as she always does, this time by a massive 90 seconds
over half
her
hour. That's huge, isn't
it? And then a minute behind the chasing pack was Daniela Reef with a few other girls, Ellie Saltas, Daniela Reef. In that chasing group, Holly Lawrence, Taylor Knibb, Jeannie Metzler, they were all 90 seconds behind her getting onto the bike, and everyone thought, well, they're going to reel her in, and they just didn't. She just held that gap for a while. Daniela Reef made up that minute, caught up to Taylor Knibb, and they were riding in second and third for a while, but they weren't really closing in on Lucy Charles-Barclay. And then towards the end of the ride, Lucy Charles-Barclay put time into them. She got off the bike with a 5-minute lead on her nearest chaser, Taylor Knibb, and then she just continued to extend that lead on the run. Taylor Knibb had a solid run, but the real runner of the day was Jeannie Metzler, who ran her way into second place. Taylor Knibb rounding out the podium in third. Daniela Reef just didn't have a day, did she?
Well, I think she put a post, and I love just the honesty, and she was saying that, and kind of laughing at herself, that I made some surges, but don't think anyone noticed or something, wasn't it, along those lines? And such a formidable athlete, and all eyes would have been on her, but just to sort of put her hands up and say, it's not working right now. And I know you've chatted to her a little bit and said she's having a break.
She's had a few challenges, and she's going on a bit of a break now. I think well deserved. Obviously, she's going to be looking for her form come maybe February, Kona.
God, don't go there again.
Here we go again. I'm sure we'll see Daniela Reef back, but this wasn't her day. She ended up finishing 11th, 17 minutes down on the leaders. Our podium was then, like we said, Lucy Charles-Barclay in first, Jeannie Metzler from South Africa in second, Taylor Knibb in third, Katrina Matthews from the UK in fourth, and great. Emma Pallant-Brown in fifth.
Yeah, I think Holly Lawrence was maybe another surprise to not be in that top five. Hasn't explained exactly why, but just wasn't her day. But I just want to go back very quickly to Lucy, because it seems, shocking that she has not actually been a world champion before. And this is her first 70.3 or full distance world championship title. And she's such a formidable athlete. And I just think it's all that hard work and just persevering so many times, the bridesmaid, so to speak.
She's got second at Kona 3 times and second at the 70.3 World Champs before. So this is really, she's worked hard for this one. It's been a long time
coming. To do it by that
coming.
much, it just shows how she really deserved that. I just think it's incredible.
She definitely got it figured out.
Such a great role model to so many people. Well, the men's race was a little less dominated, wasn't it? It was more exciting when it came to the kind of the front group, and we had quite a few changes throughout. Yeah,
but our favourites still took it in the end. On the men's side, it was a fairly big group that came out in the water together. Ben Knut, Sam Appleton, Daniel Bakkegaard and Christian Bloemfeldt, with Dane Mickey Terholt and American Eric Lagerstrom also in that group. They had about 50 seconds over the next athletes, which included Gustav Iden, the eventual winner, and a few other guys. American Sam Long was even further down, I think 2.5 minutes down out of the swim, expected.
Go on, as I was going to say, before we go onto the bike, I just listened to an article with Gustav and Christian, and just talking about how brutal the swim was in that situation.
Yeah, apparently it was a bit of a bun fight at the start. A few guys might have got a bit rattled by that. Sam Appleton tore his suit open in T1, as did Sam Long. Both of them had problems with their suit, and Tim Reed, a previous 70.3 world champion, left his swim skin on He pulled it down to his waist and then hopped on the bike with it still on his legs. So yeah, a few people got rattled by that swim, and a few people's days ended right there. But for the rest of the guys, it was out onto the bike, and they all kind of came together, sort of. No one really put a big surge in or anything like that, but Iden really showed his class. He rode up towards the front, caught up to the front guys, made up that time, and then basically just pulled away from them. Christian Grunfeld looked like he was going to also go with them, but he was taken out with a mechanical. Some problem with his front wheel. We're not entirely sure what. It wasn't a puncture, but he did have an issue and pretty much took him out of it. He did go on to finish the race, I think in 27th place, and he had some funny stories too.
Yeah, he was saying that I think it was something his wheel was rubbing. He didn't know what it was to start with, but he's obviously going to be sorting that one out. But yeah, he said that he actually had, I think he ran a 1:16 or 1:17 for his half marathon, but had hit 2 loose stops. Now, the significance of that being he wouldn't normally stop to have a loose stop, but when he was coming 27th, he's like, it's not worth peeing myself. That was Christian's words.
I don't know.
Can you comment on that one, James?
What's so bad about peeing yourself in the run? Especially when it's pouring with rain, which apparently it was. Anyway, onto the run. Gustav Iden had a 1-minute lead on Magnus Ditlev and a 2-minute lead on Daniel Bakkegaard coming off the bike. And within a few miles, it was up to 2 minutes on Daniel Bakkegaard, with Sam Long making a real surge to get those podiums. Sam Long ran the first 10Ks in 33 minutes, which was pretty impressive. He wasn't closing on Gustav Iden at all, but he did catch the rest of them. So coming down to the line, it was Gustav Iden took the win. Sam Long in second place with a very impressive run, especially if you saw him barreling down those steep hills. He can really open it up down those long legs down those steep hills. Daniel Bakkegaard from Denmark in third. Mickey Terkhold also from Denmark in fourth, and Jackson Laundry from Canada with a breakout performance in fifth.
Awesome. One other result that I just kind of like the sound of, Sam Long's dad came third in his age group. Which I thought was really cool.
And it was his mom's birthday that day too. So
what a day to celebrate.
Big day for the family.
Yeah. All about the World Championships this weekend. There was still some incredible performances. We had Ironman Austria, and Laura Philipp in the women's race had an incredible performance. She won by 45 minutes, and she ran a 2:44.49 marathon at the end of it. And remember, she'd won an Ironman just 5 weeks ago. So I think in her own words, she said 2 Kona slots within 5 weeks, which, yeah, that's kind of double stamping your...
Very impressive times too. Yeah. We'd love to see her racing against all the other girls. Hopefully we'll have a world champ soon, and she can.
Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah. On the men's side, Dennis Chevreau took the win, Rasmus Svensson second, and Arnold Gillow. They also had a really tight race, only 25 seconds in it for the win there on the men's side. 70.3 Aix-en-Provence also happened this weekend, with Arthur Hosso from France taking the win on the men's side, and Imogen Simmons from Switzerland taking the women's win.
Yeah, and then there was some WTCS racing over in Hamburg. We had the individual sprint and the mixed relay, and it was a German clean sweep. The women's race was won by Laura Lindemann ahead of Nicole van der Kay of New Zealand and Summer Rappaport of USA. The men's race was an incredibly exciting finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, sprint finish with 6 men within, I think, 6 seconds of each other.
Something crazy.
Something like that. Men's winner was Tim Hellwig from Germany, with Paul Georgenthum in second from France, and Leo Berger in third. And Tim Hellwig and Laura Lindemann, the German winners of those 2 races, were in the winning team for the mixed relay the following day. So Germany took the win there too.
There was also the Duathlon World Championships at the weekend. The long distance version, 9.2k run, followed by 144k bike and a 25.5k run. So quite unusual distances, and it was a pretty cold race in Zofingen in Switzerland. Apparently the air temperature 11 degrees, but I think it got worse than that up in the mountains, because quite a few athletes had to actually pull out due to hypothermia, which is kind of unexpected this time of year. But it was won by Seppe Iden in the men's race in a time of 6 hours and 6 minutes, and it was Merle Brunet from Germany who won the women's race.
And finally, in your race news, we had the third leg of the Super League series, this time from Jersey in the Channel Islands, and it was the enduro format this time, which is 3 triathlons in 3 triathlons in a row, basically. Swim, bike, run, swim, bike, run, swim, bike, run.
A bit like what I did at Blenheim.
Yeah,
but
pretty
faster.
much. Yeah. No stopping in between to have a drink or dry your wetsuit or anything like that. No. No wetsuits, in fact, there, and it was pretty cold water, apparently. On the women's side, it was a bit of drama in there because they have what they call a short shoot. We've spoken about it before. So the first person out of the water gets what they call a short shoot, which is basically they can take a shortcut on the last run, and then the first person off the first bike also gets a short shoot, another shortcut up for grabs. So the first out the water was Jess Learmonth, no surprise there, with Georgia Taylor-Brown just behind her, and then they pretty much gapped the rest of the field. They went on to increase that lead all the way through the whole enduro till they had about 40-second lead on the chasing pack before the drama struck.
Yeah.
So Jess Learmonth on the last run took her short shoot, as she should have, but the announcers had been shouting really loud, apparently, that Georgia Taylor-Brown also had a short shoot in her pocket. So she also took the short shoot, but she didn't have one. So then the organizer stepped in front of her and told her she was disqualified, which obviously met with some protest. She carried on the last lap of the run. She actually made up the time, the distance that she had cut on the first lap, and then she crossed the line in second, appealed, and her second place was reinstated after she had been disqualified. Basically, they didn't need the short shoot at all, did they?
Yeah,
because
just added
it didn't change anything. All it did was cause a lot of complications. And a similar thing in the men's, they didn't need the short shoot.
Yeah, well, sorry, just the last bit on the women's. The drama didn't stop there for Georgia Taylor-Brown as well, because she's apparently had a few sort of stumbles, I think, in the Super League racing. And Jess put here, I'm just having fun. If, this is she talking about Georgia, would stop decking it. I swear before Super League, she's never fallen off her bike. Never had any issues, and then since Super League she decks it or does something in transition.
Yeah, if you missed it, as she came out of that last transition onto the bike, she was looking down at her shoes and trying to get it in. She obviously had some issue, and she rode straight into a sponsor board and took a little tumble. She got back on the bike. She had a big 40-second lead, so it wasn't really a problem to hold her position, but it would have been a bit more of a race between the two of them had she not tumbled over at the start of that.
Yeah, for sure. Slightly less drama on the men's race, but it did come down to a very fast finish. So it's Hayden Wild who had the lead coming into the final run, but he was being chased down by Johnny Brownlee and Alex Yee. So, I mean, 3 of the fastest runners in the field all coming down to that final. But no short shoots involved, just plain straight racing, and it looked like Johnny Brownlee was going to take it. But Alex Yee had a final surge to get that final win, and those two have been neck and neck so many times, haven't they?
They have, yeah. So the points for the series then, if I could just pull them up here, Jess Learmonth is leading with 45 points, Georgia Taylor-Brown in second with 42 points, and Vicky Holland in third on the women's side. On the men's side, Johnny Brownlee, having not actually won one of the races but been very consistent through all of them, is leading with 41 points, Hayden Wild with 40 points, and Alex Yee in third with 39 points going into the final race next weekend in Malibu. Okay, on to some of the stuff you guys have uploaded for us. If you have some stuff triathlon related and you want to send it to us, pictures, videos, any stories you have even, drop them in the uploader in the link down below, and we'd love to feature them in future on the show. First, this from Nathan with his Cervelo P5 6. He said this was a DR project during the 2020 pandemic. He had shelter-in-place orders, so it gave him the opportunity to strip down, paint, and rebuild his Cervelo P5 6. So look what he did. He basically painted it the color of his Zoot Sports kit. He matched the paint scheme, used the samples from his actual race kit, and trying to find the exact match on the computer. And he said he's stripped it, painted it, and you can see in that photo he matches perfectly with the Zoot kit. It looks pretty impressive from far. He did say though that he did it with spray cans, so I'm not sure how good it looks up close, but hey, it looks pretty good in the race photos, so good job.
Yeah, as long as it's not added too much weight.
Oh yeah, weight penalty.
But talking of DIY, this next one is another DIY, but in a very different field. So this has been sent in from George, who's in Sydney, Australia, where they have been suffering with a pretty extreme lockdown thanks to COVID. And he had entered the 70.3 Port Macquarie back in May of last year, and it has now got moved from that May to September to May of this year to then September of this year. It's now been moved again to May of next year. So that is the 5th move. It's a little bit crazy. Anyway, His girlfriend decided that I think maybe she wanted him to get out of the house and actually get this race done, maybe. But she has basically helped him put this race together, and they did a DIY version. So they were only allowed to go 5K from the house. So designed a swim course, a bike course, and a run course that stuck to the COVID rules and or the restriction rules. They even had T-shirts made up and medals and went along to sport, and even a goodie bag. And I just think it's such a lovely story, something so positive to come out of something that's quite tough.
Talk about try DIY, good work there. Maybe that'll become a fixture on the Ironman calendar in future.
Yeah, I love it.
George's Ironman in where was he? In Australia, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Caption competition, and last week we had this photo of Vicky Holland with a slightly unusual expression on her face, and I was a little bit concerned that she, might be offended that we used it, but I was relieved to see, I think the next day, that she'd actually posted on her own Instagram laughing at herself, so that was a relief.
Fair game, of course it's fair game. Yeah, it looks like she smelled something funny. First caption was Velo David, and he said, "Uh-oh, did I leave my Mitchum in the transition area?" Heather didn't know what Mitchum was.
No,
it's deodorant.
Yeah, so I was kind of like, don't get that one, but you did, thankfully. So well done. Our next, our runner-up from Morton. What do you mean? It's not only the bike that has to be clean to be fast.
And our winner this week from Fergal Akola, and he says, "Why does try harder never go with smell better?" Probably something we can all relate to. Fergal, send us your details and we'll get a cap out to you for winning the caption competition. This week we have this photo also from the Super League, and this time it's Georgia Taylor-Brown doing something that she shouldn't be doing, maybe?
Hands down, it's all under control.
Ah, good one. Well, if you think you can do better than Heather, leave your comment down below and we'll get a cap out to you next week if you win the caption competition.
Alrighty, that is it for this week's show. We've still got some great videos coming up this week. Weekend Warrior from Blenheim, when I tried to do as many triathlons as I could in a weekend with not that much prep. You can relate to that one, can't you, James? That's coming out this weekend. We've also got a video with Kim Morrison sharing her pro bike tips. And if you guys haven't yet checked out the GTN shop with the new women's t-shirts and these lovely colours from the men's t-shirts, you can find the link on screen right now.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. And if you're looking for something to watch right now, Mark, Sam and myself attempted to run a sub 2:30 marathon. Pretty good video came out of it, even if not particularly good race results. And Alex did his first triathlon at last. The Zero to Hero video series has finally wrapped up and Alex finished his first sprint triathlon. Another great video to go and watch right now.